them how to lay out in the protective areas around their village, to go on patrols with them, to help provide medical care when their village needed it. Now, I want to tell you just one small thing about Vietnam. I've been back to Vietnam since the war 5 times. I went back with my wife, Catherine, who's in the front row here. I took my 2 sons back. My 2 sons got to see the exact spot at a hill called Can Tien up in the demilitarized zone where I got wounded and where I almost died. And my one son said to me, "Dad, you don't understand what we're feeling right now, because we almost didn't get to live because you almost died right here." So it was a very emotional time. But let me just end by saying the time that my wife and I went over there, we would be in places, in different villages, in different cities, and we would have Vietnamese come up to us, Vietnamese soldiers. And I'll never forget, as long as I live, one Vietnamese soldier came up to me, shook my hand, and said, "I want to thank you." And I said, "Well, that's nice, thank you." He said, "No, I want to thank you for something special." And I said, "What's that?" I don't know if I can remember it exactly, but he said, "The Japanese came, they wanted to conquer our country and take our country. The French came, they wanted to conquer our country and take our country. You came because we asked you to, and you never tried to take anything from us."
Well, that's kind of a tough act to follow. My name's Bob Jasperson. I was born and raised in Hopkins, Minnesota, so I lived here all my life except for the time I spent with Uncle Sam. Went through ROTC here at the university, ended up as a navigator in the United States Air Force. Was eventually assigned to the back seat of the F-4 Phantom jet fighter, which was the frontline fighter during the Vietnam War. My apologies to the F-105 guys who might be in the audience. I volunteered to go to Korea in 1972 because, quite honestly, I did not want to go to Vietnam and get shot at. Of course, this was 20 years after the Korean War was over, so it was fairly safe up in Korea. Of course, all of us remember the history. Easter weekend in 1972, there was a massive invasion from North Vietnam into South Vietnam across the DMZ. And my squadron and many other squadrons from around the world were deployed to Southeast Asia on temporary duty in 1972. My squadron was initially assigned to Da Nang in Vietnam, South Vietnam, and then eventually we were moved over to Krat Royal Thai Air Force Base for the rest of the summer. As a backseater, my entire squadron flew many different variety of missions in Vietnam, both South Vietnam and North Vietnam. Of course, for 4 years prior to this, we had not been doing any bombing up in North Vietnam. But after this big invasion, we started to go north again. So 70% of my missions were in South Vietnam, and about 30 of them were in North Vietnam. So I did both bombing missions in South Vietnam, usually working with a forward air controller, and I did other missions in North Vietnam, either as a bomber on strategic targets up there or as the escort, the fighter escort up there. I was fortunate. The one medal I never wanted, never got, was the Purple Heart. I was very fortunate, never got a scratch. We had 2 airplanes that my squadron shot down. Most of them were rescued. We lost 1 man. But I was very fortunate. I ended up with 103 combat missions. And on my very last mission, I shot a MiG-21 down over North Vietnam. And just to toot my own horn, I believe I'm the only living Minnesotan to shoot a MiG down over North Vietnam. There were 4 of us, and the other 3 have all passed away, so I think I'm the last man standing. But I'm happy to be here with you today to help you celebrate your 50 years here in Minnesota. I want to congratulate you and I want to welcome you. Thank you.
My name is my name is John Murray. I'm a retired Lieutenant Colonel in the United States Marine Corps, and I served 2 tours of duty in Vietnam. My first tour of duty was in 1967-68. I commanded 105 Artillery Battery. When I took over command of the battery, we were up north, about 7 or 8 miles south of the DMZ, and I fired in support of both Marine Corps units, Army units, and Vietnamese units while I was up there. After our unit was relieved as one of the 2 special landing forces, I came back down to the to the Da Nang area, and I operated southeast and southwest of Da Nang for the remainder of my tour.
500-man battalions into Dong Batin, which was by Cam Ranh and south of Nha Trang. And then we get a new battalion in every month, and we train them for 3 months, and then send them back to Cambodia. So most of my contacts in Vietnam were actually with Cambodians, but we were in a Vietnamese Special Forces camp. B-51 was the American camp at Dong Batin. I don't know what the Vietnamese name of the camp would have been. But overall, it was a fairly uneventful year for me. And things happened, but not where I was. So I guess I was pretty lucky in that regard. I came home, and because I didn't have any university time, I used the GI Bill to go to college, joined the Army Reserves, and then stayed in the reserves for 18 years. So it was my tiny part in the Vietnam War.
My name is Steve Young. We only have a few minutes, and there are a lot of things I could say. My family, my personal engagement with Vietnam began in 1954 when I was a kid, because my father was in the State Department, and he was the director of Southeast Asian Affairs. And in 1954, he wrote for President Eisenhower a letter of commitment of the United States to the new Republic of Vietnam in Saigon, dated October 23, 1954. And importantly, in looking back, he put in that letter for President Eisenhower a very, very, very important idea, which is Vietnamese nationalism. In Vietnamese, it's Dit Tam Nhân Tam. But this commitment of Americans, a moral commitment to help another people, was completely ignored by our anti-war movement, which never paid any attention, really, to the Vietnamese. So there's just a couple of points I want to say. The first point is, by 1972, the South Vietnamese nationalists, with American help, won the war. Okay? That's a big controversial thing. But fundamentally, by late 72, the Viet Cong, the guerrillas, the NLF, had evaporated. They only had like 25,000 soldiers left. When the ARVN, or the RVNAF, the total armed forces of South Vietnam, were approximately 800,000. Another 200,000 in the police, and another 1 million rural people in the self-defense forces. 25,000 people in a VC, nothing. In the summer of 1972, some of you may remember, the ARVN held off an invasion of 13 North Vietnamese divisions, and they fought them to a standstill. That's my first point. Oh, and Vietnam was very democratized. Oh, I should say, my job in Vietnam when I grew up was to work on the counterinsurgency village program called CORDS. I was a deputy district advisor in Dam Bien Chau Tan district in Vinh Long province, and then Bill Colby pulled me up to Saigon to plan to coordinate with the Vietnamese government decentralization of power down to the villages. so the people could stand up for themselves. Then I went over to the embassy and I worked on economic affairs. But years later, I did research. I wrote a book. So my first point is, the good guys won the war. The second point is, one bad guy lost the war. And that was Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger, on his own authority, without ever telling President Nixon, decided to let the communists win the war. And he decided this in 1971. I've written a book about this. There are a couple of copies for sale over there. My third point is the refugee movement. And this is sort of, I never really quite know how to talk about this, but when you were there flying people out at the end of April, they needed permission to get into the United States. Because you can't just walk into the US. So on March 31, 1975, I had heard that the city of Da Nang is lost. And I knew that the South could not survive. So then I decided to go to Washington and ask some of my friends to start a refugee program. So I went there, and there were two guys in particular, Parker Board, who was born and raised in Wayzata, Minnesota, and Lionel Rosenblatt. And those guys, plus Ken Quinn and one or two others, did the work in the State Department, the National Security Council, because the big people, Henry Kissinger, Gerald Ford, others, they didn't know what to do. America had never lost a war before. Well, what do you do? It was the young guys who stood up and got the decision made that we could accept Vietnamese. Senator Teddy Kennedy said we would take in 75 150,000 Vietnamese. About 130 came. Later, there was another separate effort for boat people and things like that. But as we look back on 50 years, I'd like to conclude with 2 points. One, the success of the Vietnamese in America. Just look around you in Minnesota. I mean, very successful people. But if you want to be impressed, go to the Vietnamese communities in Los Angeles, Little Saigon, Houston, Dallas. You will see shopping mall after shopping mall. I don't know how many millionaires have come out of the Vietnamese community, but it's probably more than 100. And when you look at the Vietnamese for academic achievement, they do well. That talent in Vietnam has gone to waste under the communists. But my last point is, and I think for both the Vietnamese nationalists and for the Americans, because we're still dealing with the moral damage of a defeat. What's happening in Vietnam today, 2025, is that communism is dying. And what is starting to come up, in the words of the new party secretary, Truong Ton, Vietnamese-ness. So I think, when all is said and done, we Americans can take great pride that we helped the people, and in the long run, those people took control of their country. Thank you.
Again, thank you to all our panelists for sharing your stories and insights and your service. At this time, we'd like to welcome the audience to the front. If you have any questions, we can take. We're a little bit behind schedule, trying to get back on track, so we probably have time for 1 or 2 questions if any of the audience members have any for our panelists. You can just come up here, we'll give you the mic.
Hỏi khán giả nếu có câu hỏi có đối đáp gì, xin mời lên đây để hỏi.
Thank you first, and thank you for all of you for your service, bravery, and sacrifice. We were honored and blessed, especially, Mr. Douglas, happy to invite all wonderful people, and of course, Brad, we know for years in Duluth. And again, I just want to ask you something. Again, we're lucky to have all of you here today. Just if you have some words of wisdom to our younger generations. So what do you think about? Any of you can talk about. Thank you.
Chief Hook, if I may, for the younger generation of Vietnamese-Americans, including sort of my kids, who have grown up in this country and they speak English, maybe a little bit of Vietnamese. The important thing to do is to study Vietnamese history and culture, so that you know about Lý Thương Kiệt, Lê Lợi, Trung Hung Dao, the values, the important role of women, Phu Duc Dai Mao, all this stuff, and study a little bit of Vietnamese language, because there's a heritage here which should not be associated just with 1975. There's a heritage here of an ancient and very important people, and you need to have that pride inside you.
I went back to Vietnam in 2017 with my two sons, and as I felt the first time, it's just an absolutely spectacularly gorgeous country. It's just beautiful. But the other thing that impressed me was it's supposedly a communist country, but everybody that I ran into was a capitalist. If you had 2 cans of water, you were trying to sell one, and everybody was working hard. I saw no beggars, just everybody hustling, everybody working very, very hard. And I fear that in many ways, many Americans have lost that attitude. It's disturbing. And but I was very, very impressed when I went to Vietnam. And the other thing was sometimes we'd eat 5 or 6 times a day because the food was just spectacular. It was so good. I don't know how much weight I put on the time I was on the second trip to Vietnam, but it's a gorgeous country, spectacular food, and I really wish the country well.
I would like to say something to the younger children here today, and that is, talk to your parents and your grandparents. Find out what they went through when they were in Vietnam and when they came to America. Their journey is your journey. And if you don't talk to them and find out about that journey will be lost. And that's something that I hope doesn't happen. And I know that the elder Vietnamese here hope doesn't happen.
My words of wisdom would be nothing specific for the Vietnamese community, but the younger people and some of us older folks too. Every once in a while, put down your phone. Talk to somebody face to face. If there's somebody from a different background, so much the better. We all tend to live in our one little circle, people who believe the same things and have the same backgrounds. Go out, put your phone down, and meet somebody new. You'll be amazed at what you can learn.
I guess if I had to say a word of wisdom, I don't know that it's wisdom, but try to make the world a better place. I'll give you one perfect example. Phuc knows this. I've known Phuc for many years. I do a radio show, have done a radio show for over 30 years in Duluth, Minnesota. And because I do that radio show, a lot of my listeners helped me with donations so that I could go back to Vietnam 5 times. First time I went back, I went to a village that, quite frankly, I thought I had destroyed on my first operation. We went on Operation Oregon in 1966 at a village called Ap Chanan. And we walked right into a massive North Vietnamese unit that had built bunkers in there. They just started destroying us, and we called in everything we could. We napalmed the village, we bombed it, we mortared it, we did everything. And I thought, years later, when I went back the first time, I thought, First of all, nobody could have lived through that. I walked through the village the next day and saw dead people, dead animals, burned out, everything. But I went back because my guide said, you need to go there. You need to see that life still lives there. And I went back, and you know what I did? I fell in love with kids. Little kids, like these kids that I saw today on the stage here. I saw an elementary school that needed so much, that didn't have anything. They had a computer lab with Commodore 64 computers in it that were so bad. And so the principal said to me, I asked him, I said, well, what do you need? What might I be able to try to get to help you? He said, if you could do something to get us some help in computers. These kids know that their future is computers. So I went back home and I asked my listeners to donate. They donated over $5,000. We bought 40 computer tables, two-sided computer tables, 40 computer setups, plus a big screen TV for the instructor so he could instruct on the big screen to teach the kids. And the first time I went there, I thought, these kids are going to hate me. I probably killed their grandparents. They're going to hate me. And after we were talking to one of the classes, I got all done, and we asked the class, does anybody have a question? And this one cute little girl raised her hand, and I thought, oh boy, here it comes. And she said to me, yes, I have a question. In perfect English, she said to me, I have a question. Could I take a picture with you? I mean, it was the most amazing thing. And as soon as she took a picture with me, everybody in the class wanted to come take a picture. So I learned, you know what? Life goes on after the war, and it has gone on in Vietnam, and Vietnam is probably one of the most beautiful places in the world. I'm sorry if I offend people, but I will never call Saigon Ho Chi Minh City. But I will tell you what, there are parts of Vietnam that are so beautiful, and the people are so, they work so hard with so little. It's amazing. It's just amazing to me. Thank you.
Sorry, Vivi. I may pass to Mr. Han. I know he have more to say, and he may cover for me too. Thank you.
I forgot to introduce myself when I started talking about half an hour ago. My name is Ha Tuong. I was the second lieutenant of the regional forces, which is the American equivalent of the National Guards. So probably I feel the luckiest refugee, thanks to all of the sacrifices by my parents, who paid all of my tuitions, all of my schooling from kindergarten in the French school, through my bachelor's degree in Vietnam. So that was a stepping stone, and I've worked with a lot of people, a lot of students, and I'm looking at one right now. They are not children. They are like a statue that you are shaping. You are shaping a soul. And I was lucky that I was able to work with at least 12,000 students, from teaching them English as second language, teaching them math, then training staff, training principals, and becoming principals myself. I had the chance to observe the growth of students of all ethnic groups, paid a lot of attention to immigrant students, always trying to promote empowered girls, the minorities, the underprivileged, and always consider them as my friend, if not part of my family. When I was in the classroom teaching, they were my little brothers, little sisters. When I became a principal, I became Uncle T, Papa T, Dr. T. And then they are all my nephews, my nieces. So we have to remember that we're shaping them, but don't force, because they will rebel. And then they have to remember that their stories, their family stories, mean a lot where they came from. Thank you.
Thank you again to all our panelists. I apologize, we were running a little short on time, so we won't have time to translate to Vietnamese or English, but if you have questions later, please let the panelists know. Up next, we have the Vietnamese community of Minnesota coming on stage to be performing the song Footsteps of Vietnam. So as they come on stage, again, let's give our panelists a warm welcome, and thank you again for your service.
It's all free. Yeah.
Và sau đây là bài hát Bước chân Việt Nam trình bày bởi TCM Group.
Hồi tưởng lại những ngày đầu người Việt đi Nam, ngơ ngác bước chân ra khỏi quê hương nhân tàn, lưu lạc trên nhiều vùng đất nước xa lạ. Thế rồi, sau 50 năm cần cù nhẫn nại, cố gắng bươn chải, nhiều người đã thành công rực rỡ trên mọi lĩnh vực. Cho đến nay, hầu như nơi nào trên thế giới cũng có những bước chân của người Việt Nam. Chúng tôi luôn cố gắng vươn lên và kiên cường mọi lúc, mọi nơi. Bài hát thay cho lời cảm ơn các quốc gia tự do đã giang tay đón nhận, cưu mang những người Việt tử nạn lưu vong, cho chúng tôi cơ hội tạo dựng cuộc sống viên mãn trên miền đất hứa. Anh chị em nghệ sĩ, kính xin phép tác giả cho chúng tôi sửa lại thành 50 năm thay vì 20 năm cho phù hợp với chủ đề chương trình. Kính mời quý vị thưởng thức nhạc phẩm Bước chân Việt Nam. Dạ xin lỗi. Kính mời quý vị thưởng thức nhạc phẩm Footsteps of Việt Nam, lời hát của cố nhạc sĩ Trần Hữu Thiên và nhạc sĩ Trúc Hồn. Một lần nữa xin mời ca sĩ Ngọc Trang. Thanh Trang xin có lỗi là ban tổ chức có yêu cầu cho em trình bày nhạc phẩm này Anh ngữ và Việt ngữ. Tuy nhiên chương trình đã quá trễ, chúng em xin phép chỉ hát bằng Anh ngữ mà thôi. Xin cảm ơn quý vị. Xin ban tổ chức vui lòng tắt cái projector dùm Thanh Trang.
performance. Up next, we'd like to welcome to the stage renowned composer, Mr. Lehman Kwa, all the way from California. So let's give him a warm welcome. And just as a heads up, afterwards we'll have another speaker from California, as well as we'll be serving lunch shortly, so we'll give you instructions in a minute here.
Chúng tôi được giới thiệu nhạc sĩ và nhiếp ảnh gia Lê Văn Khoa hôm nay đã đến với chúng tôi 50 năm người Việt ở Minnesota.
I have my photography works now retained in Baltimore Museum of Art. And the Sydney Museum of Australia retained my symphony entitled Vietnam 1975. So what is that day? That is very important to many people, and especially to us. So we have many things that we can share with you, at least now and in the future. I have heard somebody talk about the three-culture nation. What do we do about that? I can do something, and I would like to let you over here know, and you may reflect that, you may request that, or do something, because in California, beginning from this school year, in 2025, the high school begins to work about the Vietnam 1975. And they have my permission to use my symphony and other composition, so they begin to teach the children about the art and about the situation that we Vietnam. And that is very important. And they tend to make it the whole country. But now, in California, we go first because we have more Vietnamese people over there. Now, I would like to share something with you. I said I tried, but But we can do these 2 weeks of Vietnamese music and Vietnamese other country music. And so we want to show to you some of this now. And we will discuss about that in the future, because gives me this afternoon. It's a Vietnamese folk song. And he composed it. The Ukrainian Symphony Orchestra, playing that. Hymn to Freedom. That's the last movement from my Symphony in Vietnam, 1975. They sing in Ukrainian. They request to translate into that language so they can sing it. Piano music was performed by Vietnamese in and no hand Nova, Germany, just last month. So, in a way, that from different kind of music and music like this. Enjoy the Vietnamese music. That's what we want to share to the people. Lý ngựa ô song Black Horse.
Hỏi rồi đó. Nó không cái này không làm được vậy cái này nó ngoài cái project. Thì nó là này control là mấy cái volume cái volume kia thôi chứ không có cái project về cái này.
Right here in this city. That's a beautiful city. Now we can have something very beautiful add to that to make it more beautiful, more attractive. And I'm sorry that I cannot take longer from you because we have many things to share with you. But
transcends all cultures and languages. So again, thank you, Mr. Lê Văn Khoa, for sharing some of his arrangements and music. Next, I'd like to welcome to the stage Mr. Dong Phuc. He is an author and also the founder of the Vietnamese Heritage Museum in California, which is a side note. I did get to visit last year with my parents, and I was awestruck by how emotional and powerful it is. So At this time, we'll be serving lunch. So for our panelists and VIP members, we will be bringing lunch to you so you can stay seated. For our other guests, when you get a chance kind of in between, you can go to, again, my left, your right. We have Vietnamese sandwiches and other delicious Vietnamese food from Pac Tea for you to enjoy.
Sau đây là mời lời từ người sáng lập cơ quan bảo tàng di sản Việt Nam, ông Châu Thủy.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Châu Thủy. Before I become a founder and the president of the Vietnamese Heritage Museum, I was an engineer. I was a boat person. I escaped on a small boat in 1980. In 40, no food, no water. I make it to Thailand after surviving from the storm and from the pirate. I am a survivor, and I feel very fortunate that I make it here in the United States. The reason I formed the museum because, just like John said, we need to keep our story. We need to keep our heritage for the next generation. Not only for the Vietnamese, but also for the Americans to know better about the Vietnamese, why we are here, and how we got here in the first place. So, as John said, the parent like us, we have to share our story to our children. So, after we formed the Vietnamese Heritage Museum, we have many different programs. And the first one is we try to keep our story alive by interviewing the people who survived from the concentration camp. As you know, after 1975, the communists took over the South Vietnam. Nearly 1 million Vietnamese who looked for the Republic of Vietnam was held in the concentration camp. And in the record, 165,000 was died in the camp. And at the meantime, more than 2 million Vietnamese escaped by boat, and also escaped by walking across the border from Vietnam to Cambodia, and from Cambodia to Thailand. Probably 50% of them never make to the land of freedom. But I am a survivor. So we interview many Vietnamese who survived from the concentration camp, and also the people who walk across the border, or the people who escaped by boat. So we have the oral history program, and then during the program we found one of the good story, and I would like to share with you the story.
remember a map of South Vietnam will be portrayed on that screen, and every time the Communist and North Vietnamese Army overcame the province, that province would be colored red. As the days went by, I saw the red coming down that map. And then I remember April 30th, 1975, the news was that Saigon had fallen. And I was devastated.
Today, I want to be involved in a special program welcoming the millions around the total liberation of Saigon City. And power came to victory.
Vợ đã có bầu rồi, tôi nói là con bé nào lại là phải đưa tụi con, phải đưa con ra khỏi đất này để hy vọng sẽ đến một nơi nào có tự do thì sẽ có tương lai.
Biết rằng 50-50 sống, 50 chết cũng vẫn chấp nhận.
Giá nào cũng phải đi, chết cũng phải đi, nguy hiểm cái nào cũng phải đi.
Thì nó khóc và mắt nó không mở được, không biết đứa bé này nó có sống được hay không. Nó khóc đến độ mà tôi chỉ thấy nó ra, miệng nó ra mà không có tiếng nữa, chỉ nghe thấy được nó há miệng nó ra thôi, không còn hơi để nó khóc nữa.
And I was talking to men whose wife and children have drowned. I was talking to children whose parents have drowned.
Ông ở bên ấy thì bà làm cổng chụp hình được cái hình ảnh của đa số những người trẻ em thì trong đó có gia đình tôi biết do những cái ảnh hưởng bà không phải đây đi đã làm chụp được trên con thuyền không như cười nhờ những cái công sức, những cái sự hy sinh, những cái tài liệu, những hình ảnh mà ông đi Adams đã không dựng được nhờ những cái hình ảnh, những cái chứng sống hình ảnh đó mà chúng tôi đều chấp nhận vào cái thức thức vào đất vị này.
So what you just see is just a children. After we interview hundred of story of the both people, we found story represent for what people been through, and so hopefully someday you will see the whole movie of it. So beside the oral history, we also collect artifacts. Up to this point, we collect thousand artifacts that people took with them when they escaped, or some survival they make it to the concentration camp. Probably later you can see back there one lady just bring some of the artifacts here, and you probably see some of the artifacts that Miss Phương husband escaped. He carried with him and displayed in the exhibition area. So I would like to show you some of the artifacts that we collect that is very meaningful. Earlier, I talked to Brad. He have one of the good artifacts, and I tried to convince him, please donate it to the museum so million people can see it. Because you keep it in your house, only you and your wife and your 2 children see it. So I'm telling to everyone here, not only the bag, but any Vietnamese here, if you have any artifact, please donate it to the museum because every artifact is very meaningful for the people to come to see at the museum. So I'd like to show you this one of the cat mill. Right now we're working with the University of Los Angeles. They're helping us to scan the 3D, so someday you can be at home and turn on the TV and you can turn the artifact 360 degrees to see the artifact. So this is one of the artifacts that people have it in the concentration camp and then now brought it to the museum. Next. So that's some of the artifacts that you can see more on the Vietnamese Heritage Museum at the website. Besides the artifact, another project at the museum is we collect names of the people who was died in the concentration camp or the name of the people who did not went to the land of freedom. So this is the memorial wall. So people start submit the name or the picture of the loved one, so we can show on the artifact or on the memorial wall. So again, this is some of the artifacts and the memorial wall that we're going to show. So if you check in the Vietnamese-Museum.org, and you can see more information on it. So again, we don't have another time here, but I would like to talk to you if you have any questions later on, or I can see you at an exhibition area that we can chat about if you need any more information about the museum. Again, thank you very much for your time.
Is by Mr. Jimmy Sung and Jan with the song named The Boat of Destiny. Bài trình diễn kế là bài hát Con tàu định mệnh và hai ca sĩ Jimmy Sung và Han Jan.
Kính thưa quý vị, 12 giờ trưa ngày 30 tháng 4, 1975, tàu Trường Sơn nổ neo rời bến. Một con tàu ngơ ngác sang đông, một cuộc hành trình đau thương, gian nan và mất mát. một thuyền trưởng tuyệt vọng trong 3 ngày 2 ngày lên đên giữa đại dương mênh mông với 4.000 sinh mạng của tình mình. Sau khi được tàu Sông An và phương thuyền nhân đạo Đan Mạch huấn luyện, Trường Xuân vào đội thành công và đã hoàn thành nhiệm vụ cuối cùng cho 2 chữ tự do. Kính mời quý vị thưởng thức nhạc phẩm Con tàu tình mình của cố nhạc sĩ Long Phương qua phần trình bày của anh Trương Sơn và Thanh Trần. Xin mời anh Trương Sơn lên sân khấu. xem như số phận của họ đã không còn hy vọng được quay trở về. Giữa cái đói rét và trong cơn bệnh tật chống lo tuổi, họ không đặt nặng sự an nguy của bản thân, mà việc khiến người tuổi chiến binh quan tâm nhất chính là mẹ, là vợ và những người con của họ đang lạc loài bơ vơ nơi quê nhà. Trong tâm trạng đó, cố thiếu tướng Lê Minh Đạo và người bạn tù Đỗ Trọng Huệ đã sáng tác và hoàn thành ca khúc Nhớ Mẹ. Kính mời quý vị thưởng thức nhạc phẩm qua 3 tiếng hát: Minh Trí, Thượng Trí và Trường Văn. Xin mời các em lên sân khấu.
Check one, check one, two. Lưu một